On a vibrant alien planet known as Zithera, the marketplace was buzzing with excitement. Creatures from all corners of the galaxy crowded the stalls, their voices mixing in a symphony of sounds. Colorful lights illuminated the area, showcasing exotic goods that sparkled like stars in the night sky. This was not just any market day. Today, the Galactic Council was hosting a grand event to unveil the galaxy's most fearsome creatures. Among the throngs of alien shoppers stood a tall, adventurous human named Alex. With messy brown hair and a mischievous glint in his green eyes, he looked out of place, yet undeterred. Dressed in a rugged spacesuit that had seen many adventures, he was a sight to behold amidst the colorful, flowing robes of the aliens around him. Alex had traveled across galaxies to witness this spectacle, but he wasn't just interested in the show. He had heard whispers about the shadow worm, the deadliest beast in existence, and his curiosity pushed him to seek it out. As the sun set, casting a golden hue over the market, an announcer's voice boomed from a nearby platform, drawing the attention of the crowd. "Welcome, beings of the galaxy. Prepare to be amazed as we unveil the shadow worm." The excitement was palpable, and alien merchants paused their sales to witness this historic moment. The council had promised that this creature would be a sight no one would ever forget. Alex felt his heart race. He had heard terrifying tales about the shadow worm, tales of its massive size, sharp fangs, and armored scales that could withstand any attack. It was said to be a creature of pure destruction, feared by even the bravest of warriors. But Alex was different. He wasn't afraid. He had always believed in understanding even the fiercest of creatures, rather than simply fearing them. The crowd erupted in cheers as the giant gates of the arena swung open. A hush fell over the marketplace as the shadow worm made its entrance. It was colossal, easily towering over the tallest beings in the crowd. Its scales glistened in the fading light, shifting colors from dark green to deep purple. The creature's eyes, like glowing embers, scanned the crowd, and a low growl rumbled in its throat, sending chills through everyone watching. Gasps filled the air, and many took a step back, uncertain about what to expect next. The Galactic Council members, dressed in their ceremonial garb, stood proudly on the platform, their expressions a mix of pride and apprehension. They were in control of this beast, or so they thought. Alex watched them closely, noting how they seemed to relish the fear they instilled in others. It was clear that the shadow worm was not just a creature to them, it was a tool of power, something to show off and dominate. Yet amid the awe and terror, something inside Alex stirred. He felt a strange connection to the creature, a longing to understand it. He had always believed that every beast, no matter how fearsome, had a story, an experience that shaped its behavior. As he watched the shadow worm pace back and forth, he wondered what horrors it had faced to become the monster everyone feared. The crowd's fear only grew as the creature let out a deafening roar, its breath misting the air with a hot, sulfurous smell. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, sensing that they might have underestimated the power of the shadow worm. But Alex felt a spark of determination. Maybe he could show them that there was another way, a way to connect rather than conquer. As the excitement reached a fever pitch, Alex made a decision. He would approach the shadow worm. Ignoring the gasps and whispers from the crowd, he stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the stares of the council and the fearful aliens behind him, but he pushed those thoughts aside. With each step closer to the beast, he could see the fear reflected in its eyes. It was not just a monster, it was a living being, likely terrified and alone in a world that saw it only as a threat. Taking a deep breath, Alex reached out his hand, ready to defy the expectations of everyone watching. "Here goes nothing," he murmured to himself, determined to change the fate of both the creature and humanity's image in this alien world. In this moment of tension and anticipation, the crowd held its breath, and Alex stood ready to challenge the fears that bound them all. Would he tame the shadow worm, or would he become another victim of the galaxy's most feared predator? As Alex stepped closer, the shadow worm's fiery eyes locked onto him. The massive creature paused, its massive body rippling with muscle beneath its thick, armored scales. The crowd gasped collectively, their astonished expressions mirroring the tension in the air. They had never seen anyone approach the beast with such boldness. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena, urging everyone to remain calm, but it was clear that panic was spreading. Alex could feel the eyes of the council members boring into him, filled with disbelief and outrage. They had trained their beasts to fear humans, and here was one unafraid, ready to touch the very creature that had instilled terror in the hearts of countless warriors. Alex reached out his hand slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the heat radiating off the shadow worm, and he was struck by its overwhelming presence. It was as if the creature was a living mountain, and he was just a tiny human standing before it. Yet he couldn't back down now. He had come too far. "Easy, big guy," Alex whispered, his voice steady despite the fear swirling inside him. "I'm not here to hurt you." The shadow worm tilted its massive head, studying him with an intensity that sent chills down Alex's spine. The crowd watched in complete silence, their previous cheers replaced with an anxious stillness. He could hear the faint whispers of disbelief, wondering why a human would risk everything to approach such a beast. Taking a deep breath, Alex slowly moved his fingers closer until they brushed against the worm's cool, rough scales. At first, the creature flinched, its muscles tensing under Alex's touch. The growl in its throat deepened, sounding like thunder rumbling in the distance. The council members leaned forward, their expressions a mixture of anger and concern. As the tension reached its peak, Alex took a deep breath, determined to face whatever came next. He had stepped into the lion's den, and now it was time to see if the bond they had formed could change everything. Would he be able to protect the shadow worm from the council, or would their friendship be the very thing that put them both in danger? As the arena filled with tension, Alex stood firm, heart racing as he faced Zarin and the council guards. The shadow worm growled, its powerful form a wall of protection between Alex and the guards, its eyes glowing with an intensity that matched Alex's resolve. The crowd held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Zarin's eyes narrowed, clearly furious at the sight of a human daring to connect with a creature he believed was his to control. "You think you can tame this beast?" he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You are out of your depth, human. This creature is not your friend. It is a weapon, and I will show you how it is meant to be used." But Alex couldn't let Zarin's words shake him. He took a step forward, determination burning in his chest. "No, Zarin, you're wrong. This isn't about control. It's about understanding. This worm has feelings. It deserves respect, not fear." The crowd began to murmur again, their earlier excitement returning. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a human and a monster standing together, challenging the very foundation of their beliefs. The shadow worm let out a soft rumble, nudging Alex gently as if to reassure him that he was not alone in this fight. Zarin's anger only intensified, and he gestured to his guards. "Seize him!" he commanded, his voice booming across the arena. Before the guards could move, the shadow worm lunged forward, blocking their path. The creature's massive head hovered close to Zarin, and a deep, threatening growl echoed from its throat. The guards hesitated, clearly intimidated by the beast they had been taught to fear. "Enough!" Zarin shouted, his face turning red with rage. "You are all cowards! This creature is nothing but a monster." But the crowd began to cheer for Alex and the worm, their voices rising in a chorus of support. "Let him be! Let him show us the truth." Someone shouted, and soon everyone joined in, chanting for the human and the beast to be free. Realizing that he was losing control of the situation, Zarin's expression twisted into a mask of frustration. "You think this is a game?" he yelled. "You're playing with forces you don't understand." In that moment, Alex felt a surge of courage. "I understand this creature better than you ever will," he replied, locking eyes with Zarin. "You've treated it like a tool, but I see a living being with its own pain and struggles. It's time to change how we view these creatures." The shadow worm seemed to sense Alex's conviction and stepped even closer to him, its eyes softening. It lowered its massive head, allowing Alex to reach out and stroke its scales again. The warmth radiating from the creature felt like a powerful bond forming, one that transcended their differences. "I will not let you hurt my friend," Alex declared, feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. He knew he was standing on the brink of something monumental. "We can change the way we interact with these beasts. They can be allies, not enemies." As the crowd continued to cheer, Zarin's face turned a shade darker. "You will regret this, human," he spat. You are playing with fire, and I will not let this rebellion go unpunished. But Alex was undeterred. If you punish me for trying to do what's right, you will only prove my point. We need to embrace our differences and learn from each other. The shadow worm shifted beside him, nudging him gently, as if agreeing with his words. In that moment, Alex felt a connection that went beyond understanding. It was a bond of trust and respect. He had faced fear head-on and had found friendship in the most unlikely of places. Suddenly, a loud roar erupted from the shadow worm, shaking the arena. It was a sound of defiance, a declaration that it would not be caged or controlled. The crowd erupted in applause, their excitement building once more. They could feel the power of the bond forming between Alex and the beast, and it ignited something within them. "Look at what they can achieve together," someone shouted from the crowd. "This is the future we need." Realizing the tide was turning against him, Zarin took a step back, his confidence faltering. "You are all fools," he shouted, but his voice was no longer commanding. The cheers for Alex and the worm drowned out his protests, and he could see the crowd rallying behind the human. In that moment, Alex felt the weight of a new responsibility on his shoulders. He was not just fighting for himself or the shadow worm, he was standing up for all beings who had been oppressed and misunderstood. The bond they shared was a symbol of hope, a hope that even the fiercest creatures could find friendship and understanding in a world filled with fear. As Zarin retreated, his face twisted in anger, Alex turned to the shadow worm, whose warm eyes met his with an understanding that went beyond words. "Together we can change everything," he whispered, feeling the bond they had formed strengthen in that moment. The crowd continued to cheer, and Alex realized that this was just the beginning of their journey. They would face challenges, but together they would rewrite the story of how humans and the galaxy's creatures could coexist. With the shadow worm by his side, Alex felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. This was not just about taming a beast, it was about forging a new path for all beings, united in their quest for understanding and respect. The arena was electric with energy as Alex stood by the shadow worm, the cheers of the crowd still ringing in his ears. Zarin had retreated for now, but Alex knew he would return, and when he did, it would be to reclaim his authority. The tension in the air was palpable, and Alex felt the weight of the moment resting heavily on his shoulders. "Are you ready for this?" he asked the shadow worm, placing a hand on its massive, scaled neck. The creature turned its fiery eyes towards him, a low rumble escaping its throat that felt reassuring. Alex took that as a sign of readiness. They were in this together, no matter what happened next. Suddenly, the massive doors at the far end of the arena swung open, and Zarin stepped through, flanked by his guards and an intimidating group of council warriors. The atmosphere shifted as the crowd fell silent, their excitement replaced by a sense of dread. Zarin's face was twisted in anger, and Alex could see the determination in his eyes. "This is not over, human!" Zarin shouted, his voice echoing through the arena. "You have disrespected the council and everything we stand for. Today you will pay the price." With a wave of his hand, Zarin commanded his guards to move forward, weapons drawn and ready to strike. Alex's heart raced. He could feel the tension in the air as the shadow worm instinctively crouched low, prepared to protect him at all costs. "Stand down!" Alex shouted, his voice steady despite the fear creeping in. "You don't have to do this. We can find another way." Zarin laughed cruelly, the sound sending chills down Alex's spine. "You think you can change things with words? You're just a human. You don't understand power." With that, the guards charged forward, their weapons gleaming under the arena lights. In an instant, the shadow worm leaped into action, its powerful body moving with grace and speed. It let out a deafening roar that shook the ground beneath them. The guards hesitated, momentarily thrown off by the sheer size and ferocity of the creature. But Zarin barked orders and they quickly regrouped, forming a line to attack. "Don't let it intimidate you!" Zarin shouted, waving his sword. "Attack!" The arena erupted into chaos as the guards rushed at Alex and the shadow worm. Alex felt a rush of adrenaline as he stood beside the worm, determined to protect his new friend. He knew they were outnumbered, but he also knew they had something the guards lacked, a strong bond built on trust and understanding. As the first guard lunged at them, the shadow worm whipped its massive tail, sending the soldier flying across the arena. The crowd erupted into cheers, their support for Alex growing stronger with each passing moment. "Yes, show them!" someone shouted, and the energy surged like a wave. Alex kept his focus, moving alongside the worm as they dodged attacks. He felt a connection with the beast that made them move as one, a perfect partnership. Each time a guard approached, the worm would defend him, while Alex looked for opportunities to disarm their attackers. "Together!" Alex yelled, knowing that they had to work as a team. The worm lunged at another guard, its jaws snapping dangerously close. Alex grabbed a fallen weapon from the ground and swung it to deflect a blow aimed at the worm. The guard staggered back, eyes wide with shock. With every successful strike, the crowd's cheers grew louder, drowning out the fear that had initially gripped them. They had come to witness a battle of strength, but they were now witnessing a story of courage, unity, and defiance against tyranny. But Zarin was relentless. He stepped back, raising a small device that glowed ominously in his hand. "You think you've won? I have a secret weapon," he shouted. And with a flick of his wrist, a massive energy barrier erupted around the arena, trapping Alex and the worm inside. "What is this?" Alex shouted, panic rising in his chest as he felt the surge of energy around them. Zarin laughed triumphantly. "You're trapped now! No one can help you, and you'll soon see what true power looks like." The crowd gasped, the mood shifting from excitement to fear. Alex looked at the shadow worm, and he could see the creature's muscles tensing, ready to fight against the odds. "We can't let him win," Alex said firmly. "We have to break through." With a roar, the shadow worm charged at the barrier, its massive body slamming against it. The energy pulsed and crackled but held firm. Alex knew they couldn't rely on brute strength alone. They needed to find a way to disrupt Zarin's control over the barrier. "Focus on the energy source," Alex shouted. "We need to find a weakness," the worm responded, its fierce gaze locking onto Zarin, who stood behind the barrier, smirking with satisfaction. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the power of their bond surging through him. "You're not alone, my friend," he said to the worm, and together they prepared for one final push. With a battle cry that echoed through the arena, they charged at the barrier again, this time with all their strength. The energy pulsed violently as they collided, and Alex felt a spark of hope ignite within him. Maybe, just maybe, they could break free and turn the tide against Zarin once and for all. The crowd erupted in a chorus of support, chanting Alex's name. They believed in him, and that belief filled him with determination. As the worm and Alex pushed against the barrier, the sound of shattering energy filled the air. In that moment, everything changed. It was time to show Zarin what true power really meant. Together, they would fight for their freedom and prove that bonds formed in trust could overcome even the darkest tyranny. The showdown was only beginning, and they were ready to face whatever came next. After the exciting events in the arena, the atmosphere was still buzzing with energy. Alex stood beside the shadow worm, adrenaline pumping through his veins. The crowd had witnessed something incredible, a human connecting with a creature that had long been seen as a monster. They had rallied behind him, but he knew that Zarin wouldn't let this go unchallenged. As the cheers began to fade, Alex felt a sense of unease creeping in. Zarin was not the type to accept defeat gracefully. "What will happen now?" Alex wondered. He could sense the tensions rising again, even among the onlookers. Many had been inspired, but there were also whispers of doubt, fear, and anger against the council's authority. Zarin stormed out of the arena, fury etched on his face. He shouted orders to his guards, who quickly moved to follow him. "We will not allow this human to challenge the council. He must be dealt with." The guards exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how to proceed. Alex, still caught up in the moment, turned to the shadow worm. "They'll come for us. We need to prepare." He could feel the creature's warmth beside him, a reminder that they were in this together. As they left the arena, Alex found a small group of supporters waiting for him outside. They had witnessed the events unfold and were eager to talk. "You were amazing," one of them said, a young woman with bright eyes. "You showed them that humans can connect with these beasts."
"Yeah."
"You and the worm made a great team," another person added. Their words filled Alex with hope, but he could also see fear lurking in their expressions. "But what will happen next?" Alex took a deep breath. "I don't know, but we can't back down. We've started something important. We need to make sure our voices are heard." Just then, a loud explosion echoed in the distance, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The supporters looked around, panic spreading through the crowd. "What was that?" someone shouted. Alex's heart raced as he realized that Zarin had already begun to retaliate. "Stay close!" he commanded, leading the group away from the arena. "We need to find a safe place!" As they ran, the sound of chaos erupted around them. Zarin's guards were enforcing a lockdown, their weapons drawn as they moved through the streets. Alex could see groups of citizens being rounded up, and fear settled heavily in the air. It was clear that Zarin was using his power to suppress any signs of rebellion. They reached a nearby alley, and Alex turned to his supporters. "We need to spread the word. Zarin is trying to silence us, but we have to stand together." The group nodded, determination shining in their eyes. They began to brainstorm ways to reach others, to share their story, and to encourage more people to join their cause. As they talked, the shadow worm remained close, its massive form offering protection and a sense of security. Suddenly, Zarin's guards burst into the alley, their expressions grim. "You are all under arrest for defying the council," one of them shouted, pointing a weapon at Alex. "No!" Alex yelled, stepping forward. "We're not doing anything wrong. We're standing up for what is right." The guards hesitated, clearly torn. They had witnessed the bond between Alex and the shadow worm, and it had changed how they viewed humans. But Zarin's orders were absolute. "Move aside or face the consequences," the guard shouted again. Just as Alex felt despair creeping in, the shadow worm stepped forward, its presence filling the alley with an intimidating aura. With a powerful roar, it created a shockwave that sent the guards stumbling back. Alex seized the moment. "Now! We have to fight back!" With that, chaos erupted in the alley. The crowd rallied behind Alex, fueled by the strength of their shared purpose. They stood together, ready to protect their newfound freedom. The shadow worm charged at the guards, its powerful body weaving through the tight space with surprising agility. Alex followed closely, dodging attacks as he moved. The guards struggled to regain their footing, caught off guard by the sheer force of the creature's attack. "Fight for your freedom!" Alex shouted to the group, and their determination ignited. They grabbed makeshift weapons and joined the fray, pushing against Zarin's guards. But Zarin's forces were relentless. They regrouped quickly, closing in on Alex and his supporters. Alex could see the determination in their eyes, but he also felt the weight of fear creeping in. They were outnumbered, and the guards were trained for combat. In the midst of the conflict, Alex's thoughts raced. He needed to find a way to turn the tide. "We can't give up!" he shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. "This is for everyone who has ever been silenced. We can't let Zarin win!" With those words, the tide began to shift. The crowd rallied behind Alex, fighting not just for their own freedom, but for the chance to create a better future. They pushed against the guards, refusing to back down. Just then, a flash of light illuminated the alley as Zarin arrived, a sinister smile on his face. "You think you can defy the council?" he taunted. "You're nothing but insects beneath my boot." "Not anymore!" Alex shouted back, his voice filled with resolve. The confrontation was escalating, and Alex knew this was only the beginning. Zarin's anger was palpable, and the consequences of their actions were about to unfold. The conflict between the council and the people had reached a breaking point, and Alex was determined to fight for what was right. As the battle raged on, the shadow worm stood tall beside him, a fierce reminder of the bond they had forged. Together, they would face whatever came next. This fight was not just about survival, it was about changing the world, and Alex was ready to lead the charge no matter the cost.